Real, true, educational, not fake news. We don't do fake news. Not like a lot does. Some of them you have to pay them to get it. 24V on climate change. And this video is called Eat the Babies. Video 24V. That's right. Eat the babies. Okay? Now, before you turn off and say I'm disgusting, all I can say is I'll keep this as short as I can. So I just want to show you a few videos. Now, we know that even here in our upbringing in Ireland, there was for a long time a will on behalf of government and the church to beat the children, and I was a victim of that. And I got big enough to make sure that anyone that hit me got hit back, and that was that. But I was big enough for that. And we see that the children are very often the ones who are under attack. And before I go on, some people might wonder why my hands are all black. I'm a farmer, and in order to keep my farm viable, economically viable, I do my own repair of machinery, and I enjoy it. And I do that because I like doing it, and it also saves me money, but it's very hard to keep the hands clean when you're like that. So I'm not apologising for it, I'm merely telling you it's a fact of life. As Bob Dylan said in the song, his clothes are dirty but his hands are clean, and you're the best thing that he ever seen. Well, that's a bit the reverse here, and that's just the way it is. I don't care. I had my hands clean for a long time, and I'll have my hands whatever way just suits me on the particular occasion. Anyway, we're going back to the subject here of climate change and children and all of this, and I'm going to have to stop here, or stop this video. I still didn't get the little thing to stop it for now, but we'll just have a look at this. Now, you'll all be very aware from looking at the television that in ancient societies they very often sacrificed humans, and in fact the Irish bog bodies in the National Museum are adult men, and they were sacrificed. So it wasn't always kids that became the victim to this. But in ancient Aztec South American culture, the idea of sorry, there's a pop-up there. The idea of sacrificing children to change the weather, among other things, was quite popular. And this particular video, it shows more or less an adult, but we know all about this went on in the Inca and Aztec civilizations. And there were some burial practices in the ancient world, and this article here, you can Google it, burial practices in the ancient world, shows you this little baby was buried, must be about 2-year-old, or maybe 2.5, up at the top of a mountain. And it appears that the motive here was they used to see the lightning strike the top of the mountains, especially peaks, and they'd buried the baby, either kill it by clubbing it to death, or they'd bury it alive and let it die from the cold, and they'd watch, and they were hoping that the lightning would strike the top of the mountain, and if the lightning struck the top of the mountain, it was taken as a sign from the gods. And while there were various reasons to appease the gods, bad weather was one of them. And as the climate changed, as it invariably did over thousands of years, this custom built up that the only way you could affect the weather was to appeal to God. So you can see that all there, and rather than reading it out and all that, you can read it yourself. But suffice to say that this was part of ancient culture. Now, one of the things about ancient societies we have to remember is very often decisions have to be made. Often the survival of the tribe could depend on the leader making the right decision and the people making the right decision, and they were always under pressure from neighbours and all that type of thing, and they had and wild animals as well. So maybe a lot of decisions that were made were good ones, but they had no books, no education, no reference to the outside world, and maybe that 1 in every 100 decisions they made was a bad one. It didn't mean that they were all bad. We have to look at it in that context. Now, here's an example of babies found buried a long time ago in South America, and they had a habit of putting a young baby that died apparently of natural causes inside the skull of another baby that was apparently clubbed to death. And the idea was that the skull of the older child would protect the younger child, who may have been somewhat royal or sacred or something special about them. That was part of the ritual. Now here's another one, a report from the Telegraph. Girls survived tribe's custom of live baby burial. And this article here says that babies born into some Indian tribes, well, that would be Native Americans, they call them Indians, in the Amazon, are being buried alive, a practice that has been covered up by Brazilian authorities out of respect for tribal culture. So here again, this political correctness is taking over. Tradition is based on the belief that babies with any sort of physical defect have no soul, and that others such as twins or triplets are also cursed. Infanticide has claimed the lives of dozens of babies each year, say campaigners fighting to end it. Babies who are girls, who have some disability, or who have unmarried mothers, are all in danger of an early death in a shallow grave in the rainforest. Others are suffocated with leaves, poisoned, or simply abandoned in the jungle. So according to Dr. Marcus Pellegrini, a doctor working in Yangaman Tribe Healthcare District, 98 children were killed by their mothers in 2004 alone. Now you can read on that there. And again, the central point through all of this, it's always the young, it's always those who can't fight back. It's the same with many other things in the world, like male and female circumcision. It's always somebody who hasn't a choice and who hasn't the ability to resist. Now, where is that getting me at 6 minutes? Well, I'm coming to one here. A Swedish professor says that in order to stop climate change, we have to eat human flesh. I'm sorry if this upsets you a bit. A Swedish professor this week suggested that we should be open to the idea of eating human flesh in order to combat climate change. The Democrats here, that's in America, here back home, want to ban plastic straws, hamburgers, cars, incandescent light bulbs and factory farming because we only have 11 years left. Now, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez is a member of Congress. She's a member of the House of Representatives for New York, the Bronx District, and she claims there's less than 12 years left to save the world. But Magnus Söderlund, Söderlund, a Swedish professor and behavioural scientist, took Bernie Sanders' fantasy of mass global genocide to another level. Cannibalism, eat human flesh to save the world. Now, Bernie Sanders recently announced that if he becomes president, he's going to subsidise abortions all over the world in order to stop climate change. Now, this shows you the link. It's always the baby. It's always the weak person. They'll never come after the like of me. At a summit for food of the future, the climate-ravaged future, called Gastro Summit. So that's as a summit for food of the future, the climate-ravaged future. This is what they say, called Gastro Summit in Stockholm, September. A professor held a PowerPoint presentation asserting that we must awaken the idea of eating human flesh in the future as a way of combating the effects of climate change. Now, I'll just stop there for a second. Now, if you look at on the internet and read about mass hysteria, you'll see that there have been several bouts of mass hysteria. One in England where girls started laughing and couldn't be stopped. I think there was another one where they started dancing and they couldn't be stopped for days and days. And the most famous one was in Salem in New England, in America, north of New York, where they started believing all the women were witches. And they locked up loads of women, nearly all women. There may have been a few men as well. They were all accused of witchcraft. They were even thinking of executing some of them. And the strange thing I found about this is, this was the new world. This was an America where the people had come from persecuted countries and religiously superstitious countries, and Europe and Ireland and all that. You'd think that they would have been ahead of the game there, but they seem to bring a lot of the old things with them. And only a judge eventually said, this is a load of nonsense, and he let them out. They would have hung some of them. And the likes of me in a culture like that, in a society like that, would be seen as a denier. I'd be seen as an outcast. Nobody speak to me. And even right now, I can feel that as I pronounce climate change to be the biggest hoax the world has ever seen. It's nothing but a hoax. There is no science behind it. I'm very much painted as a denier and a wee bit out of sync. But history teaches us that it's the likes of me that are right. That we say, hold on a minute, let's think this through. What are we on about? Are we gone mad? And we all know that in certain towns you'll get women and an odd man as well, and they're off their rocker. They're going around thinking that the SAS is after them, or the MI5 is after them. That's fluid, silly, nobody be bothered about them. And they just live and they die, and that's the end of that. And there's hysterical people everywhere. In my young days, religion was brought to the point of hysteria. There was a man, this woman used to go to mass every morning, a long journey across a bog. And this man used to say, if I get to heaven, won't she be rightly disappointed? And so we have this type of a feature in human beings about hysteria and getting all worked up about things. Instead of taking it easy and thinking it out, looking at the science and develop something which is in the best interest of everybody in a democratic way. And we see that's not happening. The likes of my opinion is totally overshadowed by the likes of Mary McAleese, a retired president, Mary Robinson, another one, all retirees. Why can't they retire and go? Barack Obama, he's at the same thing. Tony Blair, trying to stop Brexit, he's gone this years. And this idea that music and rock artists and actors should count for more, and their opinion should count for more than those who are elected presently and who we elect to do it, and why the ordinary people like you and I cannot influence decisions. We are laughed at, yet we have votes. But what I'm going to show you now is, you probably say he's a bit over the top. Well, I can tell you that the United States Democratic Party has an extreme left climate change wing. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is one of the four, a gang of four as they call them, all women who are strong on this. Alexandra told us that the world would end in 12 years. That's 11 and a half years now. She told us that we need to build a train from America to Hawaii. That must be 1,000 miles. Across the sea. A train. And all this sort of stuff. But she goes on with this, and Bernie Sanders is backing her, and she's backing Bernie Sanders. So she had what's known as a town hall meeting the other night. This is where, like a constituency meeting here, where the congressperson, she's known as a freshman, she's a first-term congresswoman, member of the House. She'd be like a TD here. They meet their constituents about all the various issues, and they debate their issues, and it's a sort of a meet the people thing, and like a constituency meeting. It's a very good idea. It's all over America. It's known as town hall. And anyway, she came to the town hall, and this lady stood up, all about climate change, and this is what she had to say. Now, we're ready to roll, and I'll try and play it twice for you. The first time I'll just play it to you and take it in, and then I'll try and play it again. But I'll give you a few wee things to look for when I play it the second time. Sorry, I just want to stop that. I want to put on a microphone. I want to put on a loudspeaker, sorry. Now, I just set up the loudspeaker there. So this woman's going to start talking now, and you might get it hard to hear, so I'll run it again the second time. So off we go.
Here for much long because of the climate crisis. We only have a few months left. I love that you support the Green Deal, but it's not getting rid of fossil fuel. It's not going to solve the problem fast enough. A Swedish professor saying, we can eat dead people, but that's not fast enough. So I think your next campaign slogan has to be this: we got to start eating babies. We don't have enough time. There's too much CO2. All of you, you're pollutant. Too much CO2. We have to start now, please. You are so great. I'm so happy that you're really supporting the Green Deal, but it's not enough. Even if we would bomb Russia, we still have too many people, too much pollution. So we have to get rid of the babies. That's a big problem. Just stopping having babies is not enough. We need to eat the babies, and this is very serious. Please give a response.
Thank you. We'll go ahead.
Okay.
No, we'll go ahead. No. Yeah, no. Thank you. So I think so one of the things that's very important to us is that we need to treat the climate crisis with the urgency that it does present. Luckily, we have more than a few months. We do need to hit net zero in several years. But I think we all need to understand that there are a lot of solutions that we have and that we can pursue, and that if we act in a positive way, there's space for hope. We are never beyond hope. Okay.
Now, I'll just pause that again now. Now again, I'm going to play it to you now again. I had to get it back up again. And there's a few things to look for. There's no evidence whatsoever that this woman is a plant, or that she was put there by some sinister person to discredit the Green New Deal and Alexander Cortez. Nobody has come forward with that. It does appear that she is genuine. Now, people may say, well, it's a very poor example and hard cases make bad law. One of the things she does say is she refers to the Swedish professor and eating the dead people, which may have prompted this. Now she wants to eat babies. Note, it's not her we have to eat. Not that I would be too keen on having a chop out of that one, but at the same time, it's never the person themselves. It's always an innocent person who is unable to speak for themselves, whether it be babies in the mother's womb or babies born. It's always something like that. The other thing to look for is on her t-shirt, it's not eat the babies that's on it, it's eat the children. So that begs the question of what age does a child cease to be a child? Normally it's about 17. So it would seem that nobody's safe up to about the age of 17. The other thing then is she mentions about bombing Russia. As if bombing Russia is necessary, obviously with a nuclear bomb, to annihilate Russia, presumably to lower the population. She talks about they're all pollutants, they're all emitting CO2. But very interesting is the reply of AOC, of Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. You would think she would have said, Madam, we understand your concern and treat her as a person who may be a little bit dotty, a little bit mad, but we're not going to eat babies. You'd think she'd have said, no, we won't be eating babies. We don't have to go that far. And in any event, a baby has every right to life. There's no talk of that, because the culture of these people is that nobody has a right to life, only them. And ultimately, they want to eat the old people's bodies, the bodies of people who die, and they want to eat the bodies of babies who obviously will have to be murdered and killed. Now, there is a legal term known as infanticide, where a mother who gives birth and where the balance of her mind is disturbed can get a lighter sentence for killing her babies. And those articles, if you look them up, there's a lot of babies being killed. By not just because of women being afraid to let people know they have them, but it's been done for ritualistic reasons. And it goes back into ancient civilizations. They were killing babies, and we're now at the same thing, proposing the same thing. You can imagine if she was the leader of a tribe, or if she had a big say in a tribe, even 1,000 years ago. I mean, they'd be doing it. They wouldn't be just talking about it. And but Alexander Cortez says what tames it down a little bit. We have other solutions. Her solution is to build a railway line to Hawaii from America. She seems to have wind farms, I presume, is another one of hers. They don't work either, but that's another day's work. But she doesn't put the foot down and say, well, no, this is not, we don't go this way, we have plans to do that. And indeed, if you look at a lot of them they don't seem to want to rebut anything she said or anything like that. No, it's agreed, a woman like that, sometimes you let everybody speak. But I'm going to play her once more because it's 18 minutes, and I hope it brings home to people that nothing has changed, and that the human being believes the weather is controllable, either by killing his youngsters for the gods to be appeased or to be pleased, or killing them to save the weather by this climate change racket. So here we go now, we'll play it once more, and remember that in this sort of an environment, a person like me is a denier, a wrong one, being bought by the oil companies. This is what I am. This is what we are building now, and what we're moving towards.
Because of the climate crisis, we only have a few months left. I love that you support the Green Deal, but it's not getting rid of fossil fuel. It's not going to solve the problem fast enough. A Swedish professor saying, we can eat dead people, but that's not fast enough. So I think your next campaign slogan has to be this: we got to start eating babies. We don't have enough time. There's too much CO2. All of you, you're a pollutant. Too much CO2. We have to start now, please. You are so great. I'm so happy that you're really supporting the Green Deal, but it's not enough. Even if we would bomb Russia, we still have too many people, too much pollution. So we have to get rid of the babies. That's a big problem. Just stopping having babies is not enough. We need to eat the babies, and this is very serious. Please give a response.
Thank you. We'll go ahead.
Okay.
No, we'll go ahead. No. Yeah, no. Thank you. So I think So one of the things that's very important to us is that we need to treat the climate crisis with the urgency that it does present. Luckily, we have more than a few months. We do need to hit net zero in several years. But I think we all need to understand that there are a lot of solutions that we have, and that we can pursue, and that if we act in a positive way, there's space for hope. We are never beyond hope. Okay.
Now, I rest my case. There's no need for me to say any more. Essentially, there is that extreme woman. There's a slightly less extreme Alexander Ocasio-Cortez. There are millions of slightly lesser extreme people who vote for these type of people. There are people who mightn't be too sure what side they're on. There are people who are conservatives and say, let's do the proper assessments on all the various cures we have. And there's the like of me who says, hold on a minute, I'm not buying any of this. I'm read and educated enough to know that this kind of thing is nothing new. This is just another bout of mass hysteria by idiots and ludramons who are immensely dangerous and should be shut up and kept out and not allowed in anywhere. But that's just my opinion. It's a question of whether there's more like me or more like her. And what I'm going to ask those who are sitting on the fence on this, if you were a baby, would you rather have me making the decision on your life or that one? Think about that. Think about it very carefully. Right? So I'll see you back, and I want to thank you very much. It's 23 minutes. As I say, I do not intend to have these this length. It just goes that way. So thank you very much. We'll see you back after a while, and thanks very much, okay?